beyond my high expectations. Alright, guys and gals, I think DOC really is the shit. I also think LSD really is the shit. Until I tried DOC, even though I tried a couple dozen or so other psychedelic drugs, I thought LSD really where it was at. Not to say I haven't had absolutely amazing experiences on others. I happen to really like mushrooms, 4-ACO, MIPT, 2CC, mescaline, and a few others quite a bit as well. But it seems clear to me that some psychedelics are much more deep, relevant, and real than others. I won't even go into DMT and salvia because those two are just nuts. These two substances have led me to come to the strange conclusions regarding time, space, and the human form. Back to my point, some psychedelics primarily act as an eye candy with a strange, sometimes good buzz. They might enhance your sense of humor, cause you to act out of normal fashion, or even give you an occasional insight or revelation. Then there are straight up entheogens. These drugs allow you to achieve a deeply spiritual mindset and state of consciousness. Your ego, first your surroundings, then your internal dialogue, then any sense of who you were disappears, followed by a complete sense of who you really are. Maybe you will meet God, maybe your concept of God will completely change to encompass the entire universe and your universal self included. Mescaline in mushrooms and fat doses of LSD fit into this category. LSD is unique though, because everything is so close to you. You don't really expand outward, do you? This is a real question and I'd like to hear if anyone disagrees, but I think LSD does not cause true ego loss. It's more like everything else comes to you and becomes one with you, but you are still you. Just a super smart, super enlightened, super sense of perspective you. But hey, my highest dose of LSD was only like 600 UGs. Maybe it takes more. Anyway, I doubt I'll ever dose that much LSD again. I doubt taking a higher dose is the answer. So, in LSD, you can be surrounded by an electric candy land, have interpretive problems like thinking it's been 8 hours when it's only been 2, etc. You may even consciously expand outward, but your heart chakra is still the center of it. My point is that DOC is the same way. Now, let's get technical for a moment. I'm sure a lot of you guys are super anxious to hear the details. 6 p.m. I ate 2 milligrams DOC, plus or minus a fraction of a milligram. My buddy ate the same dose. It tasted like maple sugar candy made from fine Vermont grade A light amber maple syrup, tapped from a 120-year-old sugar maple right after a few warm days have caused much of the snow to melt. Sprinkled on some French toast and served with eggnog and brandy, of course. 6:20 p.m. I can feel something. Kinda feels like I might be coming up slightly on some very, very clean LSD. 6:40 p.m. Definitely feeling it. I can still talk and act normally, but I am moderately high and there are mild visuals starting to form. The feeling feels like LSD but mellower and less jittery. There is no anxiety. The visuals look like LSD, but, well, it's hard to tell at this point. 7:30 p.m. There's no doubt that by now we are both definitely tripping. The body feeling is simply great. It's like the electric fry feeling of LSD, where you can feel the energy flowing throughout your body. Except with LSD, this often makes me want to squirm around a bit and not be able to completely relax unless I try to meditate or really focus that energy. With DOC, I was easily able to relax, and it was more like I was basking in this energy rather than being plugged in to a two-prong outlet. By now, it was clear that DOC is visually one of the best drugs you can take. It wasn't the sheer intensity, although I was still coming up, but the beauty of pretty much everything. Objects appeared brighter, crisper, more detailed, extra dimensional. A lot like LSD, but I did not notice the same kind of neon aura that tends to form the border of objects in my vision with LSD. But that is a very minor difference that I bet very few would notice. 8 p.m. Time dilation is already occurring. Both myself and my friend are surprised to learn it's only been 2 hours since we ate our doses. We spent some time playing Tekken 5 because that game kicks ass, but I think we were done playing video games by this point. I still feel like I'm coming up, or at least I've come up all the way, but that the drug still had a few things up its sleeve to show me, and I knew it did because it's only been 2 hours. Back on the topic of visuals, now the rug was squirming around a bit. Looked like LSD, but with a little more gleam to it. Solid surfaces like parts of my wall or the ceiling were shifting color and hue, though not in any extreme way, and light patterns were forming over it. My tapestries were actually the least interesting things to look at. There were tracers following moving things, like my hand in front of my face, but nothing extremely long. Visually, mentally, and physically, I felt like I had taken 90 UG of exceptionally clean LSD that you only come across in a lifetime. Not that 90 UG of LSD makes me very jittery or anxious, though sometimes it can, but this had even less of those characteristics. If I closed my eyes, I saw transparent swirls, patterns, and images. It was quite diverse and beautiful, and again reminded me of LSD more than anything. 10 p.m. By now, we had both come up a little bit more, but just a little, like 10 UG more LSD. Visually, the entire room was alive, not doing anything too crazy, but if I focused on one object, the rest of the room would gradually morph. Patterns were more developed and closed-eye visuals were a bit brighter. I was also a little higher and starting to feel some of the stimulation reminiscent of LSD, but still milder, start to kick in. At this point, my friend was convinced to go hang out with some other kids for a little while. I decided to stay at my residence and take advantage of this time alone to explore DOC more in depth. 12:30 a.m. Wow, I had just played guitar for the last 2.5 hours at max intensity. This is simply the best drug I have ever taken for music enhancement. Not only does music sound absolutely awesome and complex, kinda like LSD but better, but I just played the sickest guitar I ever played. I'm a pretty good guitar player to begin with, but this was amazing. Amphetamines are good for playing guitar because they let me play faster and more accurately. LSD is good for playing guitar because it allows me to think of totally new things to play and to play with greatly enhanced feeling. Well, DOC was a super combination of both these, but better. I felt totally relaxed playing my guitar. At times I realized I wasn't even thinking at all, yet I was in the middle of creating the most beautiful music. How could this be? To be playing so well without even trying? With this boundary to my playing removed, I could do anything. I can go on and on about this, but long story short, after I finally put that guitar down, I felt like $1 billion, and I hadn't started to come down at all. I was hungry, so I ate a 3 Musketeer bar. It was good. Then I smoked a bowl, more like 2 hits from the bowl. I didn't really feel like I got stoned, but it made me trip more, mentally and visually, pretty much like LSD. 2 a.m. By this time, my buddy had come back and we chilled out drinking a few beers, smoking the occasional bowl, and playing music. Music was key. I kept wishing I was at a concert because I would have totally been raging out front row. I can't wait for festival season. This would be the drug to take at a festival. I would eat it and then eat more, and then eat more, and then go home. The DOC agreed just fine with the beer, by the way. They mix similarly to LSD and alcohol as I expected. I only had like 3 beers over the course of 3 hours though. 4 a.m. No change. It's hard to tell if we started to come down yet because we keep smoking weed, but I don't think the DOC has started to wear off yet. My buddy and I spent some time chilling in my room, having strange and hilarious conversations, but without the tension and confusion of LSD, which tends to occur around this point. I was still in an electric candy land. Much of our conversation revolved around the fact of how dank DOC is. 6 a.m. Starting to come down a little. We spent some time playing Tekken and watching some VH1 music videos, which were pretty hilarious at the time. 6:30 a.m. Took some Xanax, 2 to 4 milligrams I guess. 7 a.m. Still have some visuals and feel like I might be tripping if it wasn't for the Xanax, but the Xanax easily beat out what little stimulation the DOC had, and I crashed easily. The next day. 4:40 p.m. Sweet, I got a lot of sleep. My buddy woke up about the same time and sent me a text, and we decided to go get Taco Bell. The drive there was pretty fantastic. I had a great afterglow, and the sunset looked amazing. It was also the first day the sun had shone through the clouds in like 2 weeks of nasty weather. I would say the DOC afterglow is much like the afterglow of a fantastic LSD trip. So, DOC is the shit. It clearly lasts a little bit longer than LSD, but not by much. It is in fact so similar to LSD, or should I say really good LSD, that I suggest to anyone putting DOB, DOI, Bromo Dragonfly on blotter to use DOC instead, because I would not be pissed off at all to get DOC on a blotter if I thought I was getting LSD. I probably would just think it was some excellent LSD. Not that I think you should misrepresent things as LSD, but man, it is impossible not to compare DOC to LSD because of their many, many similarities. Except at this point, I think I'd rather take DOC. Hope this report does this substance justice.